If I had known that stormy evening would shatter my world into pieces I couldn't reassemble, I would have never let my gaze linger on him the way it did. He was my closest buddy's big brother. Strictly forbidden territory, a line etched in stone. But some boundaries, once you step over them, drag you into a whirlwind you can't escape. I can still picture the first time our paths crossed. No dramatic flair, no swelling soundtrack in my mind, just a tall guy in a faded gray sweatshirt, lugging a crate of energy drinks, grumbling about his kid brother springing a surprise guest on him. That guest? Me. Yo, Kyle, seriously? You gotta warn me before you drag strangers into the house, he snapped, brushing past us toward the garage. Relax, Dylan, Kyle shot back with an eye roll. This is Jordan. He's not some random dude. He's my best friend. Dylan flicked a quick glance my way, offered a curt nod that barely qualified as acknowledgement, and vanished around the corner. No formal intro, no lingering stare. Nothing to suggest he'd ever become more than a background character in my life. Boy, was I mistaken. Dead wrong. Over the following months, he evolved from just Kyle's brother into someone who haunted my thoughts day and night. I was practically a fixture at their place. Weekend hangouts, late-night pizza runs, epic video game battles. Kyle was like the brother I never had. His mom fussed over me like I was her own kid, whipping up homemade meals and asking about my day. His dad was always on the road for business. And Dylan? He kept to himself, either buried in textbooks in his room or pounding the pavement on runs. But I'd catch these fleeting moments with him, towel around his neck after a shower, sweat glistening on his toned arms as he fixed a leaky faucet in the bathroom, muttering curses under his breath. Or those times he'd pause in the doorway, giving me this inscrutable look when he figured I wasn't noticing. At first I brushed it off as my imagination running wild. But as the visits piled up, so did the vibes, the electric charge in the air when we brushed shoulders in the hall, the subtle shift in his tone when he addressed me directly, the heavy pauses that screamed unspoken words. I held back, though. Dylan was untouchable. He was Kyle's sibling. Straight as an arrow, and me? I was the introverted, clumsy gay teen Kyle had befriended in freshman year. That's how I assumed he viewed me, until that fateful night. It was during winter break. Kyle and I had binged action movies in the den until dawn, and around 3 a.m., he conked out on the couch, snoring like a chainsaw. Wide awake and parched, I tiptoed upstairs for a drink. The house was pitch black, eerily silent. I didn't expect company. But there he was. Dylan, perched on the island stool in the kitchen, nursing a mug of coffee, thumbing through his phone under the soft glow of the overhead light. He glanced up as I entered. Up late? His voice was casual, but there was a warmth to it I'd never heard before. I nodded, grabbing a glass from the cabinet. Kyle's out cold. Just grabbing some water. He gestured to the fridge. Go for it. I filled my glass and leaned against the opposite counter, the quiet growing awkward. Then, out of nowhere, you're not much of a talker, huh? I froze mid-sip. Yeah, I suppose. He set his phone down, meeting my eyes. I don't mean it as a dig. You're always here, observing everything. It's kinda intriguing. You notice details others gloss over. My cheeks burned. No one had ever pointed that out, least of all him. I mumbled something lame about being observant by nature, but inside my mind was racing. As I turned to head back downstairs, he dropped the bomb. You're different from Kyle's other pals. I pivoted slowly. How so? He shrugged, a faint smile tugging at his lips. You're genuine. No macho postering, no fake bravado, just you. My pulse thundered. In that dimly lit kitchen, with the world asleep around us, it felt like we'd stepped into our own bubble. That was the instant I realized I was screwed. Head over heels in a way that spelled disaster. The rest of the break flew by in a haze. Kyle and I hit the arcade, hiked local trails, and devoured junk food marathons. But everything felt altered. I'd spot Dylan stealing glances my way during family dinners, or he'd volunteer to chauffeur us around town, cracking inside jokes that landed like secret codes meant only for me. He'd linger during our game sessions, tossing in commentary that made my stomach flip. And me? I was a mess, wrestling with feelings I knew were off limits. He was straight, older by 3 years, my best friend's brother. Crossing that bridge could torch everything, our friendship, the easy vibe at their house, my sanity. But emotions don't play by rules. They ambush you in vulnerable moments, ignoring every rational argument you throw at them. The night it all unraveled was a downpour, straight out of a thriller flick. Kyle was crashing at another friend's for a gaming tournament, and I'd left my laptop charger at their place during our last study session. Desperate for it to finish an essay, I shot Dylan a text. "Hey, can I pop by quick to grab my charger?" His reply was instant. "Sure, I'm around." Doors unlocked. I dashed over through the sheets of rain, heart oddly jittery. The house loomed dark, his truck in the drive. "Anyone home?" I called out, shaking off the water in the foyer. "In here," came his muffled voice from the living room. I found him slumped on the couch, staring blankly at the TV flickering with some old rerun. A half-empty beer bottle in hand. He looked wrecked, eyes distant, shoulders tense. "You good?" I ventured, hovering by the doorway. He didn't respond right away, just took a slow swig. Then softly, "Ever feel like your life's a script someone else handed you? Like you're acting in a play that doesn't fit?" My breath hitched. I knew that feeling all too well. The constant mask, the fear of being exposed. "Yeah," I admitted, stepping closer. "More than I'd like." He motioned to the spot beside him. "Sit." I did. The couch dipping under my weight. The storm raging outside, mirroring the chaos building within. He opened up then, words tumbling out like a dam breaking, about the pressure from his overbearing dad to be the perfect son, tough, emotionless, always in control, about hiding parts of himself to fit the mold. "But with you," he said, turning to face me, "I don't feel that weight. I can just be." My world tilted. This guy I'd crushed on from afar, the one I'd convinced myself was unattainable, was bearing his soul like I was his lifeline. We talked deep into the night, about family expectations, the terror of vulnerability, the loneliness of pretending. At some point he asked, voice hushed, "When did you figure it out? About being gay?" I shared my story, the confusion in middle school, the crushes I mistook for admiration, the relief of finally naming it. He listened intently, then confessed, "I've felt off my whole life." Pushed it down, told myself it was nothing. "But being around you, it makes me question everything." My mind reeled. Was this real? I searched his face for signs of regret, but all I saw was raw honesty. Then, the words that changed it all. "The way you look at me, it's terrifying. Because it's real, and I've never had that, and I think I want it." Time froze. I don't know who leaned in first. Maybe it was mutual, a magnetic pull neither could resist. Our lips met tentatively, a spark igniting into fire. It wasn't rushed or clumsy. It was a release, every suppressed emotion pouring out. In that kiss, labels dissolved. We weren't defined by roles or expectations, just two people connecting in the purest way. But reality crashed back fast. He pulled away, eyes wide with panic. "Shit, We can't." He bolted upright, pacing. This was a mistake. My chest ached. "Dylan, wait." But he was already shutting down. "You should leave. I need space." I stumbled out into the rain, drenched and devastated. Not from rejection, but from tasting something so profound, only to have it yanked away. The kiss lingered like a ghost, replaying in my dreams. Weeks dragged on in agonizing silence. No texts, no calls. At Kyle's house, Dylan avoided me like the plague, exiting rooms when I entered, averting his gaze. Kyle chalked it up to his brother's moodiness, oblivious to the undercurrents. I threw myself into school, hobbies, anything to numb the hurt, but memories assaulted me. His laugh, the vulnerability in his eyes, the warmth of that moment. How do you forget feeling truly seen? One evening, while Kyle was out grabbing takeout, I waited in their den. Footsteps approached, and there he was, Dylan blocking the doorway, expression stormy. "Hey," I said, voice steady despite my racing heart. He didn't speak, just stared, the tension thick enough to choke on. "Why the ghosting?" I pressed. "You could have said it was nothing." He winced. "Because it wasn't nothing. That's the problem." I closed the distance. "If you're scared, that's fine. But don't pretend it didn't mean anything." His face crumpled. "It's not just fear. It's everything, my family, my life. Dad would disown me if he knew. I can't be this." It hit me then. This wasn't about us. It was his internal war. He was fleeing his own truth. "I'm sorry," he muttered, slipping away again, leaving me in the echo of what could have been. I distanced myself after that, dodging invites to their place with flimsy excuses. Kyle prodded, but I deflected. The ache festered until one sleepless night, scrolling through pics from a group camping trip last fall. There we were, me, Kyle, Dylan, grinning by the fire, his hand casually on my back. Had the spark been there even then? My phone lit up. "Dylan, you home? Need to talk." My fingers trembled as I replied, "Yeah, back door's open." He arrived minutes later, rain-slicked and exhausted, eyes haunted. "Why now?" "Idem S open." He arrived minutes later, rain-slicked and exhausted, eyes haunted. "Why now?" I demanded, arms crossed. He stepped inside, water pooling at his feet. "Because I can't stop thinking about you. About that night. I've been fighting it, but I don't want to anymore." Relief and fear collided in me. "What does that mean?" He closed the gap, cupping my face gently. "It means I'm done running. I want to try this, for real, with you." We talked until sunrise, laying bare fears and hopes. No more hiding. That night marked our beginning, a tentative step into the unknown. Kyle eventually found out, and after the initial shock, he came around, becoming our biggest supporter. Dylan's dad was tougher. It took time, therapy, and tough conversations, but bridges mended. As for us, we built something solid, navigating the messiness of first love, coming out, and family drama. Looking back, that forbidden glance sparked a fire that nearly consumed us. But in the end, it warmed us, lighting a path we never knew we needed. Some lines are worth crossing, if only to find what's waiting on the other side. I couldn't believe the words hanging in the air between us. "I've been thinking about you," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. My heart stuttered in my chest, like it had forgotten how to beat steadily. "I see you in everything," Liam continued, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made the room feel smaller. "Every empty hallway at school, every late-night drive, every corner of that old cabin where we'd spent summers pretending life was simple." I tried to swallow the lump in my throat, blinking away the sting in my eyes, fighting not to crumble right there on the porch. He took a shaky breath, stepping closer under the dim glow of the string lights. "I convinced myself that kiss last month was a fluke," he confessed, his words tumbling out like they'd been bottled up too long. "A stupid, impulsive mistake. But it wasn't. You're not a mistake." The silence that wrapped around us was charged, heavy with unspoken truths and the humid night air. Then he closed the gap, his hand brushing mine tentatively. "I don't know what this means," he said, vulnerability cracking his usual confident facade. "I've never done anything like this before, but I want to figure it out, if you're willing." I stared at him. This guy who'd always been on the periphery of my world, untouchable. Liam, the one I'd harbored a silent crush on since freshman year, watching from afar as he navigated life with that effortless charm. The one who'd pulled me into a shadowed corner at that party, kissed me like the world was ending, and then vanished into the crowd, leaving me reeling. Now here he was, raw and exposed, and in that instant, I saw him clearly. Not the perfect image I'd built in my head, but a guy as scared as I was. We were just two confused souls grappling with emotions that had snuck up on us, uninvited and overwhelming. So, I did what felt instinctive, what felt honest. I laced my fingers with his, pulling him gently inside. We sank onto the worn couch in my room, the one piled with forgotten textbooks and laundry, just sitting there in the quiet. No rush of words, just the steady rise and fall of our breaths syncing up, our hands clasped like an anchor in a storm. "Is this actually happening?" he asked softly, his thumb tracing circles on my skin. I nodded, my voice steady despite the chaos inside. "It can be, if that's what you want." He met my gaze, and I watched the tension melt from his shoulders, like a burden he'd carried alone for too long. "Then yeah," he replied, a small smile breaking through. "I want this, even if it's messy, even if tomorrow flips everything upside down. I want you right now." For the first time, we let the walls drop. No more hiding behind jokes or avoidance. We stretched out on the bed, side by side, our hands exploring tentatively, not in a frenzy of passion, but in a gentle quest for connection. Fingers tracing collarbones, breaths mingling, hearts pounding in unison. It felt almost holy, this vulnerability we'd uncovered. We didn't push boundaries. It wasn't about that. It was about finally being seen, about bridging the gap that had kept us apart for so long. Understanding bloomed in the spaces between us, warmer than any physical touch. He didn't leave that night. When dawn filtered through the blinds, painting the room in soft gold, I rolled over to find him awake, his eyes soft as they studied me. "Morning," he whispered, a hint of amusement in his tone. "Morning," I echoed, catching his faint grin. "You look ridiculous with that bedhead," I chuckled, shoving his shoulder lightly. "Says the guy who snores like a freight train." For the first time in what felt like forever, laughter bubbled up freely, cutting through the remnants of tension. But the real world doesn't stay at bay for long. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from Ryan. "Dude, you dipped early last night. Forgot your jacket at my place." Liam's expression sobered as he read over my shoulder. "We can't tell him," he said quietly, the words laced with regret. I nodded, the weight settling back in. "I know." Ryan, my closest friend since kindergarten, the one who'd always had my back through every awkward phase and heartbreak. To him, I was the reliable sidekick. To him, Liam was his protective older cousin, the family hero who could fix anything with a grin and a wrench. The thought of us together? It wasn't even on his radar. We weren't ready to shatter that illusion, to risk the fallout. So, we slipped back into the facade. Liam left first, slipping out the back door like a ghost. I waited 10 minutes, heart heavy, before following, stepping into a day where we were nothing more than casual nods in passing. But that night had rewritten us. In the hidden corners of our lives, everything had shifted, even as we played pretend around Ryan. Liam and I settled into this precarious dance. Days blurred into normalcy, high fives in the hallway, group hangs where we'd avoid eye contact a second too long. But nights were ours, stolen glances turning into clandestine meetups in abandoned parks, or late-night drives to nowhere. It was thrilling at first, the secrecy adding an edge, but soon it wore us down. Guilt twisted in my gut like a knife, sharp and unrelenting. Worse was seeing the toll on Liam. The guy Ryan idolized, the one with the easy laugh and unbreakable spirit, had faded. In his place was someone shadowed, eyes haunted by our shared secret, constantly bracing for the other shoe to drop. One lazy Sunday afternoon, as we lounged in Ryan's basement watching a game, he paused the TV and turned to me. "Hey, something's off with Liam lately. He's been zoning out, skipping family stuff. You notice anything?" I forced a casual shrug, my pulse racing. "Nah, probably just stressed about college apps or whatever." Ryan bought it, diving back into the game. But inside, I was unraveling. How much longer could we tiptoe around this? How soon before Ryan caught the lingering stares, the unspoken electricity crackling between us? It all came crashing down one stormy evening. Liam showed up at my door, rain-soaked and ashen-faced. "I have to tell you!" he choked out, voice trembling as thunder rumbled outside. My stomach plummeted. Ryan knows, the world tilted. How? I managed, pulling him inside and shutting out the downpour. He grabbed my phone to check the score, saw our texts. Liam's eyes were red-rimmed, filled with a shame that gutted me. He's pissed. Says I betrayed him, lied to his face? What did he say exactly? I pressed, my hand on his arm, steadying us both. He's hurt, confused as hell. Doesn't get why or how, Liam's voice cracked. He doesn't hate me, but this changes things. I pulled him close, our foreheads touching. We'll face it together, I vowed, even as doubt clawed at me. But promises are easy in the dark. Daylight brings the real test. The next morning, Ryan appeared on my doorstep, expression stormy and unyielding. "We gotta talk," he said flatly. I let him in, the air thick with unspoken accusations. He paced the living room before dropping into a chair. "I know about you and Liam," he blurted, no preamble. I froze, words failing me. His gaze softened a fraction, pain flickering beneath the anger. "It hurts, man, like you both went behind my back. But I'm worried too. About him, about you, about what this does to our crew." Tears pricked my eyes as I sat across from him. I care about him, Ryan. More than I ever expected. It's real, he sighed, rubbing his temples. Then don't screw it up. Don't hurt him. Swear it. I swear, I whispered. And just like that, the dynamic shifted. Not seamlessly, but irrevocably. There were arguments that echoed through late nights, tears shed in quiet corners, doubts that whispered in the silences. But bit by bit, Ryan began to grasp it. We weren't sneaking around anymore. We were navigating this new reality as a tangled unit, like a family piecing itself back together after a quake. Even after that confrontation, the air didn't clear overnight. Silences lingered between Liam and me, pregnant with all we'd left unsaid. Ryan tried to keep things light, cracking jokes, planning group outings. But I caught the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, the way he'd watch us a beat too long. One crisp autumn night, Liam appeared at my window, tapping softly like we were kids again. His face was etched with exhaustion. "We need to hash this out," he said, climbing in and collapsing onto the floor beside me. The room felt too small for the weight of our words. "I'm terrified," he admitted, voice fracturing. "That this, us, will wreck everything. Our bond with Ryan, the family gatherings, the easy days. I don't know how to mend it." I took his hand, threading our fingers. "We don't have to fix it alone, but it's gonna be rough." His eyes met mine, glistening, and we sat there, letting the vulnerability hang. The days dragged on in that limbo. Hushed conversations, tentative steps forward. Then, one overcast afternoon at the park, Ryan cornered me by the swings. "I want to be there for you guys," he said, sincerity cutting through. "But no more secrets. Lay it all out, for me, for everyone." I agreed, knowing it was our only shot. That evening, Liam and I poured it out. The buried crushes, the electric first kiss, the fears that had kept us chained. It was brutal, raw emotions spilling like blood from old wounds, painful confessions, heated exchanges, but beneath it, a thread of truth binding us. For the first time, hope flickered. The path ahead was foggy. Would Ryan fully forgive? Would our extended family accept this twist? Could we withstand the stares and whispers from the outside world? Answers eluded me. But with Liam's hand in mine, one certainty anchored me. We weren't isolated in this fight. The weeks blurred into a delicate balance, like threading a needle in the wind. Ryan grew quieter, more introspective, his usual banter muted. The secret we'd harbored was now a toxin leaching into our sha. Quieter, more introspective, his usual banter muted. The secret we'd harbored was now a toxin leaching into our shared spaces, tainting laughs and meals. My chest ached constantly, every interaction laced with unspoken strain. Finally, one twilight evening, Ryan called a summit. "All of us, living room now," he commanded, tone brooking no argument. Liam and I exchanged glances, his face ghostly, eyes shadowed with dread, as we complied. The room pulsed with tension, words hovering like storm clouds. "You've been dodging the truth," Ryan started, voice edged but measured. "No more bullshit. Spill it." I drew a ragged breath. "Yeah, it's true. Liam and I, we went beyond friendship." My voice wavered, but I held steady. Liam chimed in, tears threatening. "I didn't want to cause pain. It just happened." Ryan's jaw clenched. "This upends it all. Trust. Dynamics. Everything." The aftermath was chaos. Strained family barbecues where conversations fizzled. Friends probing with well-meaning but intrusive questions. I was caught in a tug of war, loyalty to Ryan clashing with my deepening love for Liam. Every shared look felt loaded, every brush of hands a risk. In the dead of night, alone on my porch, Liam shattered. "What if this was all wrong?" he sobbed. "What if we erase it, go back?" But I knew erasure was impossible. This wasn't fleeting. It was our core truth, long suppressed. I gripped his hand. "No more running. We stand and fight, together." As shadows lengthened, my determination solidified. The unknown loomed, but I was armored for battle. The dawn after that explosive talk, the house hummed with fragility, like a soap bubble on the verge of popping. I stirred to eerie quiet, my thoughts a whirlwind. Facing the day felt insurmountable. Would acceptance come? Forgiveness? Liam perched by the bay window, dawn's rays haloing him. I joined him, and he turned, eyes a storm of fear and fragile optimism. Hiding's over, I murmured. Time to own who we are, not just cousins or buddies, but us. He nodded, absorbing it. That afternoon, we rallied Ryan and our inner circle for the big reveal. It was a maelstrom, tears streaming, questions flying like arrows, silences thick with fury. Yet, amid the wreckage, a pivot occurred. We shed the masks, voicing our realities, terrors, affections, dreams. Near the close, Ryan's voice faltered. I can't wrap my head around it all, but family, that's forever. Those imperfect words were a beacon. The ensuing months weren't a fairy tale. Relapses into tension, clumsy interactions, lingering skepticism. But Liam and I drew power from our bond, mending not only the recent fractures, but the years of stifled silence. This tale transcends romance. It's a testament to bravery, to confronting your essence, no matter the chaos. Loved ones can astonish with grace. Inner demons demand the fiercest fights. Yet one lesson endures. Love thrives in complexity, unyielding in its authenticity. Thanks for journeying through our narrative. If you've wrestled with hidden struggles or unspoken truths, drop your reflections here. Remember, solitude isn't your fate.